Hail Mary, grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
St. Pius X,
Pray for us.
Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception,
Pray for us.
Our Lady of the Rosary.
Pray for us.
Thanks for coming. The talk tonight, this morning, is really a one-talk summary of two full conferences that I gave some years ago in St. Mary's, Kansas, when I was principal of the girls' school there. And it was really geared towards the fathers. The mothers were invited to come as well. And that can be a special support for the efforts that are being made for father and daughter. We're not saying that the relationship between mother and daughter is not important too. It is, but we can only take one thing at a time. All right, so basically, this is going to be a shortened form of what we covered there. It's a total order because there was probably two 45-minute to an hour long conferences. Here it's just one 30-minute conference. So this is only a little over, probably a third of the material that we covered in that double session. But at least it's something that gives you a starting point. The main source of the talk is a book called Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, written by Dr. Meg Meeker. All right, so she's a pediatrician. She worked with young ladies for years and years, over 20 years by the time she wrote this book. She dealt with positive and negative influence of fathers on the daughters. She had prescribed so many antidepressants and all that kind of thing to girls precisely because they never had the proper bond with their dad, and now they were really struggling. All right, so she took her experience and she put it in book form. I'm not saying it's perfect. She's not, as far as I know, practicing Catholic. She was born a Catholic, seems to have kind of wandered. All right, so I'm not saying it's perfect, but there's a lot of good common sense in the book, and a lot that, from my own experience as a principal in schools and preaching retreats to young ladies, doing girls' camps, all of that. A lot of it's verified by what I've seen myself. So I've taken what I like. The book is worth getting if you want, but it's not for kids. You can probably find it on Amazon, but it's not for kids. It's not to be left laying around. It tells you up front what your daughters are going to be exposed to in the public schools. And so you're trying to keep them from being exposed to those things. If you buy it, it's good for an adult. It's not good for kids. So keep it in a private place, or in the room or something. All right. So Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. That's the name of the book. The author. I've already told you a little bit about her experience. She was a pediatrician for many, many years. She also had the advantage of having a really good daughter-father bond herself. Her own dad was really good to her and really helped to give her the courage even to become a doctor. She says she had basically given up on becoming a doctor. She wanted to be a doctor, but she had been turned down by multiple colleges. Her dad was a doctor, and she happened to overhear a conversation. Daughters tend to do that somehow. All right, she happened to overhear a conversation that her father was having on the phone with a colleague, and her father was saying, "Yes, my daughter's going to be at medical school next year. I'm so excited." She's thinking, "I just got turned down. I've basically given up on this." But she can hear from the tone of his voice and the fact that he was putting his own reputation on the line with a friend. She could see that he really believes I can do this, and that gave her part of the encouragement she needed to move on towards that particular goal. Now, I'm not saying we're pushing all our daughters to be doctors or lawyers. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying your influence as fathers goes a long ways, and she certainly had that happen for her. So her story and her dad's part in it, all right, these are quotes from her. A lot of it's quotes directly from her book. "I can tell you that fathers change lives, as my father changed mine. You're natural leaders, and your family looks to you for qualities that only fathers have." It is so true that as much as that bond between mother and daughter is important, there is something that your daughters can only gain from that. There's something they only gain from mom, but there's something that they only gain from dad. And so we need to know what that is. We need to invest in it. Again, this is Dr. Magnifi. All right, what you say in a sentence, communicate with a smile, or do with regard to family rules has infinite importance to your daughters. I want you to see yourselves through her eyes. And I don't want this just for her sake, but for yours. Because if you could see yourself as she sees you, even for 10 minutes, your life would never be the same. It's a fact that the girls and men and women are made differently. And for the daughter, her worldview is massively impacted by what dad thinks. With dad smiling about what she's doing, she knows that it's worth doing. If dad's upset about it, she knows that's dangerous. It's so important. And if you could see, her father could see himself through his daughter's eyes for a moment, what a difference that would make. He would realize that everything he does, she's watching, she's taking a cue from him, and she will either come away stronger and more confident, or she will come away discouraged because dad didn't notice or dad didn't. All right, so the thesis of this little talk is that fathers, more than anyone else in the world, obviously we're not competing with God, right? But fathers, more than anyone else in the world, sets the course of a daughter's life. More than the media, more than the TV or movie industry, more than the schools, more than anyone else in the world, the father sets the course of his daughter's life. That's saying a lot. All right? I've watched daughters talk to fathers. When you come into the room, they change. It's one of the reasons we don't have them here right now. All right, they're in another class. Because that way, we can tell you things, and they don't know that you're being coached on these things. They think you're perfect. They think you know everything. And therefore, sometimes, we separate for a time the two, simply so we can talk frankly. When you come into the room, if you were to walk into their classroom right now, immediately their posture would change, their attention would change, even if you were just standing in the back quietly. If dad walks in, whether it's a party or whatever, it doesn't matter. Even at Mass, when dad walks in, the daughter changes. They hang on your words, they hope for your attention, and they wait for it in frustration, in despair, if they don't get it. So, for example, if you go to a parish gathering, there's a big parish picnic or something, and your daughter's playing a game or whatever, if you never make eye contact with them, if you never break the conversation with your friends for a moment, even keeping the conversation, but just break the focus for a moment to look and see how she's going. If you never do that, she's going to be missing it. Guaranteed, she's looking across at you every so often to see how you're going, to see if you're watching her, to see if you thought about her at all during the course of this good time. Are you sharing the time with her, or are you doing your own thing? She'll be able to tell. It's not just when she's a little girl, right? When she's 25, even when she's grown up, she'll mentally size up her boyfriend or husband up against you. Well, is he worth marrying? How much is he like that? She almost does it subconsciously. And one day, even when she's married, she'll think, my dad wouldn't have done it that way. Or, that's exactly what my dad would have done. And that will help her respect her husband. And that's not just even, at 25. When she's 55, when she's 70, and you're dead and gone, she'll still have events where she'll think, what would dad think about that? What would dad say in this situation? Or, I wish dad could have been here to share this. It's just the way she's wired. And it's a beautiful thing. The clothes she wears will reflect something of you. Everything about her. Even when she's 75, how she faces future will depend on some distant memory of time spent with you. Be it good or painful, the hours and years you spend with her or don't spend with her change who she is. And if she doesn't have your attention and focus when she's young, and I'm not saying spoiling her, but if she doesn't have a proper love and bond with her dad when she's young, she will regret that all her life. There was one, I don't remember every detail, so hopefully I get this correct, but I'm going from memory. When I gave these talks in St. Mary, shortly after that, maybe 6 months later, I was transferred to Australia. So everything becomes a little bit of a blur because there was so much going on. In fact, I think when I gave these talks, I knew I was being transferred even perhaps, but they didn't know yet. And so I thought, well, what's one more thing I can do for the girls before I go? Well, try to create this bond with their father. Try to facilitate it at least. One of the dads, if memory serves properly, this is the way it worked. One of the dads, after the talk, he sent me an email and he said, Father, I'm so grateful. I've got to make up for lost time. I mean, I love my daughters, but I'm gonna really invest. I'm gonna do even more. Well, I got transferred here. Maybe a year later, I found out he died. Young father, he died. I just hope and pray that those last months that he had, he really did invest. He was a good man, but he wanted to do even better. At this point, in a certain sense, that's all his daughters have left to remember. It's that little time they had with him before he died. He didn't know he was even sick. So take the time you have. Be sober and watch. This is from Scripture. Be sober and watch because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, goes about seeking whom he may devour. Right? That's from Scripture. The devil, like a lion, wants to conquer your children. And the way he does that, like a lion, is he chases the whole family until one gets tired and distances himself from the rest, and then he attacks that one. That's where the social media and that kind of thing is so dangerous because it isolates you from your child where they have a whole life, a whole world that you don't know about. And at that point, your daughter's becoming more and more independent in the wrong way, and she can't stand up against the devil anymore. She needs her dad. So stay close and be watchful. All right, you need to stop in your tracks, open your eyes wider, and see that your daughter faces today, tomorrow, and what she's going to face today, tomorrow, and in 10 years. Not just, is she okay today? Is she going to be ready for tomorrow with all that brings? It's tough and it's frightening, but it's the way it is. While you want the world to be cautious and gentle with her, it is cruel beyond imagination, even before she's a teen. What these poor girls are exposed to when they are young, right? Our parents, your grandparents, they never had to dream of, not in this way. These poor kids, they need their dad. Fathers are what stand between the daughter and this toxic world. You have to be the one that protects her. God put you there for that in a special way. All right, so where do we start for that? First of all, from the time of little boy, when we were little boys, all right, we were always being asked, what are you going to be when you grow up? And again, we would respond with something heroic. All right, I'm going to be a fireman, all right, or I'm going to be a soldier. There's always something we want. It's wired in a man. We want to be heroes. We want to be able to stand up and to fight against all odds for those we love. All right, well, as Meg Meeker says, I have news for you. Your daughter wants a hero, and she's chosen you. All right, she has. From the time she was born, for the first time, you're the first man in her life, and you are her hero, whether or not you live up to the role. And hopefully you do. Right? And heroes, of course, it doesn't mean proud and cocky. Heroes are humble. All right? But to those whom they rescue, they are larger than life. All right? If you were saved from a burning building by a firefighter when you were a child, that firefighter would be your great hero. Where would I be without him? I can't believe how good he was to me. You are that to your child, to your daughter. So basic truth, fathers must be his daughter's rock. He must be stable, therefore. He must be stable in his self-sacrificing love. All right, she loves it. A girl loves what's stable, what's reliable, this lasting beauty. That's why she loves wedding. She loves rings or things like that, even before she's married. She loves a golden ring or a diamond, or not just because it's worth this much, but because it's beautiful today and it will never tarnish. In 20 years, it'll still be beautiful. It means you love me today because you give it to me, and you will still love me forever. Your daughters love what's stable and reliable, and you have an advantage there because God made you where your emotions, all right, don't go up and down as frequently as a woman's do. A woman is made typically more emotional because that's what fits her to be a good mother. She needs that intuition. She can sense when a child is upset. All right? The father, he is there for a different reason, and that's to be the point of stability in life. That no matter what happens around, she'll be able to look and say, well, that's where dad stands, so I must be too low or too high in my emotions. Because dad always stays more or less the same. Explosive anger for a father is terribly detrimental. If you are kind to her most of the time and then you explode in anger at her, in a certain sense, we could say, if you frighten her once, you frighten her forever. It doesn't mean that you can't repair that, but it's going to be hard work, and you're going to have to repeat again and again stability. Because if she looks and goes, well, I know that dad only explodes like a volcano once every 75 years, but I don't, or once every 3 weeks, or 6 months, or she doesn't know when that explosion is going to be. So, like the cities that are built at the base of a volcano, they just live in fear all their life because they don't know when it's going to blow. So you have to be so careful. I'm not saying don't scold and don't be firm, but you've got to be so careful. And if you've made mistakes, then start reversing them, because your daughters are very forgiving and they're actually quite resilient. Look at how they go through childbearing, and all that trauma, and then they hold their little one. They fall in love with that little one, and they're ready to do it all again. Similarly with dad. Dads have made mistakes sometimes, and yet recover for those. But if your daughter has already made a wall between you and her, don't forget, she built that wall to protect herself from you. You have to prove to her that that wall is no longer necessary. And that takes time. It's just a hard fact. How a man treats his wife deeply affects how his daughters perceive him. If you're good to the daughter, but you're mean-spirited towards your wife, the daughter's going to automatically look and say, well, one day that's going to be me. He married her. I was just born into the family. He married her. This was the woman of his dreams. He walked down the aisle with her, and he treats her like that. Of course, one day he's going to treat you like that. Be careful. And if you treat your wife with respect, how that builds up the confidence of your daughter. The enemies of a father and daughter relationship are several. Belittling the daughter in front of others. Correcting unnecessarily in front of others. Comparing her unfavorably to others. There are times you have to correct and don't humiliate. Failing to protect her when she is in danger, or to avenge her when she has been hurt. Now, I'm not saying take her side when she's done wrong at school. All right? If she's done wrong, she's done wrong. But if someone has mistreated her, you take that seriously. In proportion to the problem. Even if somebody abuses her, you go to the police. You respond proportionate to the issue because your daughter needs you. You are her protectress. I'm not saying be rash. I'm not saying don't look at the circumstances. I'm just saying she needs to know that you are there to protect her. Failing to protect her when she's in danger, all right, is going to diminish that bond. Alcoholism in a father it's worse than anger. She'll never trust you with her secrets because she doesn't know how you're going to use them when you're drunk. Even if she trusts that you'll treat her properly when you're sober. Addictions of all sorts divide you from your daughter, including, workaholics or video games or whatever. You have to be someone that she can respect and someone she can connect with. And we are all so busy. And they are so sensitive. They don't want to break in upon your world unwanted. And we get so focused on project that we send, without even meaning to, we send a message saying, don't talk to me right now. I'm too busy. If you don't make time from time to time for her, she may never approach you. But invite her and she will come. Whatever outward impression she gives, her life is centered on discovering what you like in her and what you want from her. She can't feel good about herself until she knows that you feel good about her. I'm going to keep moving a little quickly through. We live as we love, St. Peter Julian Amard says. We live as we love. In other words, we do what we want to do. We choose to do something because we love it. If this is true of everyone, male and female, it's particularly true of a woman. Love is the very oxygen that she needs in order to breathe and to blossom. After all, woman is called to be, as it were, the heart of the world. It's profound. All right? Because I wrote them. All right, the rest is made me. All right, Dad, you are her first love. You're her first love. To be certain that your daughters feel loved by you, all right, here are a few practical steps that you can take. Words, fences, silence, time, and will. All 5 of those signal to her that you love her. All right, now, we're getting close to the end of the time. We're going to keep going through it as the kids get out. If mom needs to slip out to keep the child from running into the road, feel free. And the dads can stay a little longer to get the last little bits. We'll be done still before Mass, but we're running a little bit behind. All right, and I want to get into a certain part. I cut a lot of the conference out because I combined 2 in 1. But what I didn't cut out is still to come. And that's where, after I gave the first talk to the fathers, I went by the classrooms. St. Mary's Academy has 430 girls when I was there, K through 12. And I went by different classrooms and I said, girls, tonight I've got another talk with your dads about their daughters. And let's face it, your dads understand automatically their sons because they were little boys once. They know what their boys like. They've never been little girls. Sometimes they don't even know what you want. So you've got a few minutes. Just write down some of your favorite memories with your dad. That will tell them what you like. So just sit down and write down a few of your favorite memories with your dad. Time you spent with your dad. And they did. I went through like a first grade classroom, middle school, and high school. And I've got some of their answers here. All right, and they're girls like your girls, traditional Catholic girls. All right, and even if they're American, they probably like a lot of the same things. Just add a few footy things in, and you're probably good to go. All right, so words, fences. Well, let's start with words. First rules when it comes to words: speak them and write them. Speak to your daughter and write to your daughter. She lives right with me. Yes, write a little note, put it in her lunch pail. Surprise her, and she will think about you all day. And she will start to return notes, almost guaranteed. She'll put them under your pillow, or she'll find a way. And with men, we get a birthday card or something. We open it, check for cash, and then, oh, that's nice. And we might read it, and then it goes in the manual. All right? Not with your daughters. You write her a note, she will tuck that away somewhere. She'll have a little special place, and she'll probably keep that all her life. At least the most significant. They're made differently. Words are powerful for a girl. Use them and write them. All right, speak them and write them. One of the major differences between men and women is how they use words. Women like to talk. Men don't. That's just the way it is. That's Dr. Meeker, not me. A good rule of thumb is to use, this is for a man, not for a woman. A good rule of thumb is to use twice as many words as you normally would, even if it means just saying the same thing twice. She wants to hear from you. Fondest memories. All right, these are students from St. Mary's, Kansas. My favorite memories with my dad are the conversations we had together. He showed me that he cared what I had to say and shared his own mind and heart with me. I didn't prompt things. I didn't tell him what I was going to talk about. I just prompted saying, tell me your favorite memories. Again, another girl. Going on long drives with Dad, all by ourselves, and being able to talk about important things. When she talks, this is Meg Meeker, when she talks, she wants you to respond. Your daughter is sensitive not only to herself, but to others, and is always asking herself, does he like being with me? Is he quiet because he's thinking about something? Is he angry? Is he depressed? And she wants you to be happy. Look at what this girl says. High school girl. I always looked forward to the days I received his letters. Her father had been in the military for a while. I enjoyed the days he would spend with the family when he came back and before he had to leave again. Even though he was tired, He always tried to do the most with us those days. He is retired now and is always tired because of his job. And I guess old age also plays a part in that. But I wish he was more happy, less stressed, like he used to be. But I don't know what to do to help that happen, mostly due to his work. There's a girl that's suffering in high school because her dad's not as happy as he used to be. Middle school girl. More or less, I just enjoy having a lively conversation with him about something besides sports. High school girl. Him teaching me prayers. He read me the Rosary book for years, talking about my future, giving feedback, showing interest. High school girls. All right, when I was in kindergarten, she's in high school and she's still, her fondest memories are when she was with her dad in kindergarten. When I was in kindergarten in first grade and second grade, I went to the 5:45 a.m. Mass with my dad every day. It was that special thing to me because it was just me and my dad. It was our little secret. Another one, things I wish I could have done with my dad, which is a cry for help. Things I wish I could have done with my dad was quality time spent together or gotten words of encouragement or affection. I guess my best memories were us working together on projects around the house. They do like to work on projects too, but that's not enough. Tell them you love them. Reflect on your daughter's character. Praise her best attribute. Think about her. What is good about her? What do you love about her? Tell her that. Talk to her about her sensitivity. Are you very compassionate? Wow, look at that courage you show. Your daughter will draw a picture in her own mind of how you see her, and that's the person she'll want to be. Even if she's not perfect yet, draw the picture that you want her to incarnate. Girls of all ages love letters and notes. She will save it because she wants to be connected with you and loved by you always. She won't just read it once. She'll read it when she's feeling down. She'll read it when you haven't written her in a while. And she'll say, I think Dad still loves me. The words on the paper do not change. She needs those words. A middle school girl from St. Mary's. My favorite memory with Dad is when he took my family to the zoo, and after we ate out and made a real family memory. They do. Girls remember things differently. Oh, I remember this special holiday. I remember this special. With boys, it's a little bit different. It's not one memory so much. There may be some memories, but it's not one memory. It's whole approach. We look at the global thing. She zeroes it on. We made a memory, and she'll treasure that forever. Spending time, just being with him, was another girl. When my dad carried us up to bed, all right, when we were little and fell asleep in the living room, right? She remembers, she acted like she was asleep. So Dad would carry her up to bed, apparently, because she remembers it, going on walks with him on spring evenings. It's the spring evenings for some reason. I don't know, but they remember the details. It's so simple in a certain way. Look at this. What do these girls, what memories do they value with their dad? Anytime their dad spent time with them, anytime their dad had a real conversation with them, every time their dad showed affection. It's not that hard. Words, fences are the next signal that show your daughter. It's a bit counterintuitive, but they show your daughter that you love her. Fences, putting rules in place. You create borders around her movements, around her language, and her behavior because you don't want her to get hurt. That signals to her, even if she fights the rules and says, why do I have to be home at that time? Why do I have, deep down she knows it means you love her. Of course, they'll ask you, don't you trust me? Why do you make all these rules? Don't you trust me? And then you answer something like, the boundaries I've put up, the boundaries I've erected are not about trust. They're about keeping you safe and channeling your talents and your energy in the right direction. I have great hopes for you. It's not a matter of trust. I love you. And therefore, I will direct your energy in the way that's going to best profit you in the long run. Of course, it is true that there is some reason to distrust as well, all right, because they're immature. All right? All fathers often overestimate their daughter's maturity. There's a study done by Dr. J. Gieb chief of brain imaging in the child psychiatry branch of the National Institute of Mental Health. All right, he spent more than 13 years performing MRIs and studying the brains of more than 1,800 kids. Poor kids. All right, and what did he find? He found out that the adolescent brain is full-grown in size, but long after full size is established, the brain continues to undergo major stages of development. One of the last regions of the brain to mature is the prefrontal cortex, which is home of the so-called executive functions. That's where we rely on that to plan, to set priorities, to organize thoughts, to suppress impulses, and to weigh the consequences of our actions. All right, this means that the part of the brain that young people need the most in order to develop good judgment and decision-making, well, that's the part that develops last. That's what they need most, and that's what develops last. That means you have to be that for them. All right? Many people doesn't fully develop that part of their brain until their mid-20s. That's why you still have a role to play even after graduating from high school. Silence is the next signal that tells your daughters you love them. Silence meaning that you listen to them when they need to talk. You give them time and space to talk. Most daughters tell me that their fathers listen better and preach less than their mothers do. This is Dr. Mike Maker. All right, but there's a catch. It's harder to get a father's attention. Dad will listen better, but it's hard to get him. It's hard to pin him down. But your attention is what she wants, because she senses the strength and the concern even behind your silence. You just sit there and you listen, and you think about it. And then you say a little something. Even the silence is already spoken. She knows Dad takes me seriously. Daughters want their fathers to listen while they unravel their own tangled feelings and beliefs. If a daughter can trust her dad to listen, she will come back to him again and again to talk. Another high school girl from St. Mary's. My best memories with my dad would be our Friday night dates. This dad used to take her out on dates. Good for him. We would go to 6 p.m. mass and then out to dinner or a movie. I also loved going over essay topics and math equations with my nerdy engineer dad. And every time, and even the times he shows me long, 2-hour long talks by bishops and priests, my dad really makes sure that I know everything about my faith and what's happening in Rome. Overall, I love doing everything with my dad, and he is like a best friend whom I tell all to. Would that every daughter could say that about her dad. Time. Give her time. That's another signal that tells you you love her. Being a father means giving your time without resentment. Not, all right, I'll give you some time. Hurry it up, because I've got more important things to do. No, you got my time. You got my attention. What do you want? What do you need? Your daughter realizes this, that you're busy. And because she wants to please you, she might not tell you how much she needs your time. So you have to take the initiative to spend time with her alone. Obviously, sometimes it's in groups with the other daughters, but sometimes alone. Here's a daughter. This is one of the girls, I think it was year 1, in her own handwriting. Going to church early. RLY. Stepping on the ice on the pond. St. Mary's gets kind of cold in the winter. My dad, a middle school girl. My dad, when I was little, he let me sit on his lap. And while he was driving, and let me put my hands on the steering wheel. He was very funny. He really cares about his daughters. Sounds like he's a little reckless to me. Let me help him prepare my mom's birthday breakfast. She loves to be of service. Just point her in the right direction. 2 things that I really enjoyed doing with my dad were when he and all my brothers and sisters would gather around him and he would tell scary stories to us on winter nights. Another was when my dad would dress up with us and play house or nights with us, and we would have a blast. Oh, what a great dad. He was dressing up like a knight. When Dad takes us out down to the creek in the summer, when he gives us trailer rides and cuts down trees for firewood with us, when he makes breakfast with us, I love his laugh and smile and deep brown eyes and dark hair. And you can't make it up. These are the things that daughters like yours said about their dads. I can tell you some of those men walked out of the conference with tears in their eyes. They knew that these were their daughters. Practical points. Keep one-on-one time simple. Avoid activities that put you in competition with your daughter. I'm going to spend time with you. Let's go in and see who can lift more weights in the gym. Or arm wrestle. No, don't put yourself in competition. Just have a good time. Always use this time for emotional balance, for relaxing and having fun. It's not the time to work out conflicts. You can do that later. It's not the time to correct her on something. Just have a good time with her, and you'll be in a better position to correct things later. Here's a couple of year ones. He could lift me up in the sky. He could take me fishing. He could take me for a walk, W-O-K. I love the next one down below in their own writing. That he took me on a daddy-daughter date. D-O-T-E-R, a daddy-daughter date. That he takes care of us. I love my dad. And then a high school girl spending one-on-one time, even with no conversation. Just to sit there together. Another high school girl, he spends time with me. I took a car trip with him a couple times. And the best moments were simply standing by him, holding his hand as we walked along the park. The best memories and gifts he has given me was the time he spent with me and the times he made me laugh. Right, girls? There's so much emotion going on inside that they need a good laugh. They need a good cry once in a while. They need a good laugh once in a while. One of my favorite memories with my dad was when he would come home in the winter and give me a hug, and then we would bundle up warm and walk out to the barn and take care of the cows. Who likes taking care of the cows? But with Dad, that's fun. Just the time that I was able to spend with him every night, I love, and I will never forget it. Another thing I love about my dad is that he shows that he loves us. He tells us he loves us. And just everything he does shows us how much he loves us. I love helping my dad build things like a cabinet for the church that I helped him build. I also love playing basketball with him, even though he's not very good at it and runs very slow. And so he always gets out. But it's so fun to have him play with me. All right? Middle school girl, she's a bit cocky. Year one, I love my dad because he likes me. And we went fishing together. And we played games. Finally, will. You have to have the will to love. As natural as it is to love her when she's a little girl just born, right? Well, there are going to be challenges that come to that love. There are going to be times when your work is so busy, when you are so stressed, or when you're struggling through something personal. Right? There are going to be times when she's struggling through something. It's natural to love her at first, but love is not just meant to be natural. It's an act of the will. You must love her all through her life. Love is voluntary. It's will. It's willed. Love is voluntary. Your daughter cannot make you love her or make you think she's wonderful. If she could, she would, but she can't. How you love her and when you show it is within your control, not hers. It's inevitable, too, that your daughter will go through stages. She will draw close to you, and then she'll pull away. She'll adore you, and then she'll want nothing to do with you. You need to love her not only when she is your sweet, affectionate girl, but also when she's a real pain in the neck to be around. When she's moody, you still need to communicate with her, and you need to keep yourself from exploding when she's disagreeable. If she says, leave me alone, and you actually leave her alone for long, she'll think, where did my dad go? She's saying, will you fight for me? Are you strong enough to handle me, Dad? All right, am I worth the fight? Are you strong enough to handle me? Will you set the rules and keep them because you love me? At the moment, she might really be upset with you, but in the long run, it's because she loves you. And she wants to see that you are still strong enough to handle her. So what if it's awkward? So what if a correction is hard to make? Make it if you have to make it, but make it with love. You might need to show up at a party where your daughter's friends and maybe even your daughter one day have been drinking and take her home. You may need to talk to her about the clothes she wears and the music she likes. So what if it's awkward and your daughter's out and you know she's at risk at this party and you recognize it? Go down, face the human respect, and bring her home because you love her. Don't just, oh, well, what can you do with teenagers these days? They'll be ruined. It's not optional. Your daughter needs you to be her hero, and it takes a hero's courage sometimes. Before you even learn what's happened, all right, with a hard situation, before you even learned about the problem, she's already imagined your heroic response. Dad's going to do this. And when you don't, if you don't do it, how disappointed she is. And if you do, how she says, yep, that's my dad. Other dads wouldn't care. They wouldn't put themselves out like that. That's my dad. Will, patience, calm, and persistence will pay off in your relationship with him. Nothing better expresses serious love than a combination of these qualities. Let her know that nothing she can do can make you stop loving her. Now, I know we're just about out of time. So 2 final reflections. Be the man you want her to marry. Be the man you want her to marry. One day, when she is getting married, look down the aisle and see who's waiting up there for her. And you'll find that at the other end of the aisle, undoubtedly, will be a reflection of you, whether good or bad. So finally, fathers, reflect on the Father in heaven. You're not alone. God is your Father first, as He's your Father. Your daughter's relationship with you really affects how she tends to look at God. Whether she is able to approach God as a father or not depends in part on whether she can approach you as a father. And of course, the message you want to send is that you are happy to be her father, just as God is happy to be her father. Thank you very much. If you kneel down, I'll give you a blessing. Benedictio Deum Patris, Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, descendat super vos, et manet semper. Amen.